when the heck has Barney Frank ever directed money to something that made any sense whatsoever? So just sort of a priori, you know it's a money-losing project. And by the way, I don't excuse Republicans who will say that the problem with the stimulus was that we didn't blow the $800 billion on the right things. I mean, this is kind of, again, not the sharpest response you might make. But the fact is the government, of course, has no profit and loss mechanism, so it has no way of knowing if it's doing well, if it's doing destructively badly, if it's wasting resources, if it's adding value. It has no way of knowing. It has no feedback mechanism. And it gets its resources by seizing them from the population. Kind of uncivilized. So it has no way of knowing how it's doing. So these are all going to basically lose money. And this is going to make us rich. This is what we're told. It's going to make us rich. And now Krugman, Paul Krugman, he who shall not be named, Paul Krugman says we need more stimulus. So notice the problem is never that the first crazy idea was a crazy idea. It's that we haven't done enough of the crazy idea. It is never let's reverse course and try something else. No. We need to do more and more and more. We need to do exactly what Japan did. We need to do exactly what they did all through the 90s, and they continue to do, and now they've just contracted, their economy has contracted at an annualized rate of 15%, which you might expect to hear for Haiti or something, but that's Japan, after following the advice of these geniuses, who all try to claim that, oh, no, they didn't follow our advice precisely, they were off by 0.3%. Look, they did everything that Keynesians wanted them to do, and this is what they have to show for it, is basically a big old zero. But in terms of fiscal stimulus, well, first, it diverts resources, right? I mean, because where are the resources coming for these projects? It takes them away from the private sector. Now, the sophisticated Keynesians will come back with, these resources are idle. They're not doing anything anyway. So it's okay if we yank them back into production. Well, yeah, that would be the case, perhaps, if you could devise stimulus packages that would make use only of precisely the resources that are currently idle. But of course they're not doing that. They're coming up with a whole bunch of totally arbitrary projects, all of which are going to involve diverting steel or diverting labor from places where they are currently employed. So this idle resource argument doesn't work on those grounds. Secondly, again, the argument from idle resources. We need to spend money, we need the government to borrow money and blow it to get all the resources we have that are idle back into productive activity. Well, they never ask the question, why are all these resources idle in the first place? Why do we have idle capacity in the first place? What's going on here? And the Austrian explanation would be that this is a remnant of the artificial boom, that we've had production in areas that can't be sustained. And so we don't want to stimulate these back into use, or at least not at current prices. We need to see what the market decides where they should be deployed right now. It's like, for example, a restaurant owner in Vancouver who, when the Olympics come, he thinks, hey, great, apparently everybody loves my food. He doesn't realize that the reason everybody's coming into his restaurant is, the Olympics are in town, and there are a lot of spectators and athletes coming in, and they all have the Olympic circles, rings on their T-shirts, and this guy isn't quite noticing this, so he thinks, suddenly everybody just loves my food. I knew this was bound to happen. So he builds a second location, and then the Olympics go away. And now his second location, all his waiters and waitresses are standing around, they're getting no tips, there's nobody in there. Well, should we want to stimulate his idle resources back into activity? No. Obviously, that would divert resources away from healthy areas of the economy where the market needs to be given a chance to redeploy them. It would be a total waste to do this. Stimulus packages are like drinking Red Bull instead of sleeping. Because if you've had Red Bull before, which I haven't, by the way, I'm just like this naturally. This is without Red Bull. But if you have Red Bull, you know that what it's actually doing, it doesn't actually, there is no perpetual motion machine. You drink Red Bull, and you just keep going. No, it's that whatever part of your body is not totally exhausted, the Red Bull will totally exhaust. And then it's not like, hey, no crash is coming. Oh, that crash is coming. Well, likewise, the fiscal stimulus, in effect, it seeks out, like the parasite that it is, the profitable sliver of the economy and sucks resources out of it, and therefore exhausts the economy still further. Now, monetary stimulus, let's print up more money and blow it. Well, again, we've already seen why that just intensifies the problem. That just puts it off for a few more years and makes it more intense when it actually gets here. So what we need, in fact, is the opposite of this. And interestingly enough, in American history, we have an episode in which that's exactly what was done. And that's 1920 to 1921. Now, some of you have heard me talk about this over and over again. And I have a YouTube on this very topic. It's called Why You've Never Heard of the Great Depression of 1920. And it's got like 33,000 views. This amazes me that people at this point are so desperate to figure out what's going on. They'll sit in front of their computers and like watch TV for 45 minutes about the Great Depression of 1920. That's wonderful. People are listening. That's wonderful. Well, what happened in 1920? Well, we had